Okay, we're going to get started. Shalom, friends of Israel. I'm Lizerbram, National President of Jewish National Fund USA. Thank you for joining us for our daily briefing from Israel. We are in day 12 of the war in Israel, and we will start with today's program. We're going to reassign some of the speakers because of we're live, and there's a lot of various people that need to attend other meetings. So we're lucky enough that we have Jeff with us today. So let me just introduce Jeff. Most of you know Jeff anyway. He's not only a national board member, he's our friend from Jewish National Fund USA, serving as our chair. Jeff is on the ground in Israel as part of a unity mission for the leaders of major Jewish American organizations. Following a meeting in Washington, D.C. yesterday with members of Congress, including Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Mitch McConnell, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, and others. These leaders got onto a plane to Israel to bring the strong message of U.S. support and to meet with our family on the ground. Jeff, on behalf of all of us, thank you for being in Israel now, and please share what you can with us. Jeff.
Thank you, Saul, and thank you for everything that you do. So as you know, I arrived in Israel this morning, where I was greeted by a virtually empty airport. I have never seen Ben Gurion so lacking of personality. On the positive side, I got through immigration in a zip. Having said that, I met immediately outside with our Representative Tali Tzur and our friend Avi Calamaro, and we proceeded immediately to go to Ramat HaNegev, which is a community in the vicinity of Beersheba, which is to the east of significantly east of the Gaza envelope. And I can tell you it was probably one of the most emotional and invigorating days. It's hard to describe the change of emotions you have when you see these resilient people who are recovering from what is a shock of a lifetime that many will carry with them for their lifetime, to what they're doing to get their feet back on the ground, in so many cases with the help of the Jewish National Fund as well as others. We immediately met Mayor Eran Doron, who is an incredible person. I am operating on only a few hours sleep in the past 2 days. I think he's operating on only a few hours of sleep in the past 15 days. He is omnipresent, going from community to community, making sure everybody has what they need. Again, with the help of the JNF, giving them little things like people who have been forced to flee their moshav or their village, and they do not have the clothes on their back. So he is literally receiving packages of clothing to distribute to those people who were unable to run from their safe houses and their homes to have their clothes and their toiletries. And in general, this community absorbed already 2,500 people and is expected to absorb thousands more. We met his team at the Situation Room and saw farmers being given rifles to augment the security in the communities. Fortunately, these farmers have served in the IDF in their youth, and they are now prepared to do what's necessary to protect their families and their homes in our time today. The mayor shared with me heroic stories and repeatedly thanked me and JNF and Tali for being the only persons in the organization who came to meet with them and hear what their needs are. Again, we were very much appreciated and we were very thankful to be with them. We then went to kibbutz, and you'll forgive me because I know how to say Rochester and Detroit and Albany very well, but some of these names are new to me. Kibbutz Mashabai Sadeh, where we met Lilach from Moshev Ohad, and many of the other evacuees from Ohad. Lilach had a very difficult time. She knew as the rockets fell on her home in Moshev Ohad on Saturday morning that this was not the usual rocket launches that they've experienced, which were few, and they came in barrages, and she knew it was different. And as the fear mounted, she stayed in her safe house, safe room, only to receive calls from her son, who was visiting a friend in the Gaza envelope. And that son was a young man who was there without his weapon, who was in the military, who was telling his mother to come get help. They were in their safe room and they could not get out and they needed help. And he called repeatedly. I cannot tell you, listen, I have 3 beautiful children, 3 beautiful grandchildren, loved ones, siblings, wife, as you know. I can't imagine how this woman felt being locked in her own safe room, hearing her son crying for help, because not only was he hearing the rockets, but his moshav was under bullet fire. And I am sure this woman will not recover soon from the trauma of both. The beautiful thing in this, it was actually a bed and breakfast where hundreds were being given evacuees, shelter from the storm, so to speak, where they had psychologists and a wonderful woman who was the director of the community center, where they had activities for the children. I actually saw a Bozo the clown with a red nose leaving as I arrived. So, as again, it was both exhilarating and depressing all at the same time. We then drove to Sde Boka, as you all know, which is the home and the resting place of Ben Gurion. I think you also know that we at JNF has been active there in many ways. The JNF Development Fund, the building fund, which we initiated, actually has housing that people have occupied there. One such occupant was a woman by the name of Karen, who was a dentist, who has moved to Sde Boka into the housing that our fund helped create. This is one of the most distressing conversations of the day. As a dentist, she has been called upon, because the medics and the first response people are so busy, to help, and I hope I can say this without getting emotional, identify the victims and the bodies, some of whom are so distressed that it's going to take DNA testing to know who is who and what is what. But she says she has to do it. She removes herself from her body when she does it, and she's getting it done. We go on to speak with Yossi from Sderot, who is also in Sde Boka, who, much like Ramat HaNegev, is taking refugees. He is in with a family member, a cousin who was already living there. He was trapped in his building while the terrorists infiltrated. He told us that he, his wife, and his 3 children were only able to leave because his neighbor had pistols and came and helped give them cover to run first to his neighbor's safe house, which was better, and then ultimately when the military came. And we did hear repeatedly from many of the residents that they were distressed about how long it took for help to arrive. And even now, many of the residents are questioning, where is the government? They see JNF, they see us helping, and they would like to know when the government officials would be helping them. Now, they recognize that the government is busy working to create a safe border and to help rescue the kidnapped. But again, it's distressing for these people who are working very diligently to improve their quality of life, but they have to, number one, rebuild the places that were destroyed by this invasion. And then they also have to get the people to go back. And this could be very psychologically stressful for people to go to homes where they were locked, in some cases, for 10, 12 hours. I mean, you've heard this over and over again. So I also met with a gentleman, Ronnie, who was there watching his three beautiful children, ages 2, 4, and 6, who were running around the grave of Ben Gurion, which is, I guess, somewhat ironic in Negev. And he was there because he worked in the search and rescue building that we at JNF built. And sadly, he was watching three children because his wife was attending a funeral just a few miles away of a family member. We then traveled to Kibbutz Revivim, where, and this is very hard to tell you, where we saw a new temporary cemetery being built for victims that cannot be buried back in their own communities because it's unsafe to go back there at this time. There was a Sephardic gentleman who was working with Bedouin Muslims to create what he called cells, which I guess I would call vaults, below ground places for the burial of people who might have to be removed and placed elsewhere later in their families. I never wanted to say Kaddish more in my life. Even as we left there was a funeral with, I don't know, hundreds of people and hundreds of cars beginning on the road as we started to return back to the Waldorf here in Jerusalem, where we returned.
Hey, Jeff, I'm going to interrupt it. First of all, to give you a break, take a little water, and we need to cut to the ambassador, who also is on limited time. We know you are also, but yeah, I think it's important to at least bring in Ambassador Danny Ayalon, former
And we
ambassador.
are also joined now by Danny Ayalon, who's the, of course, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Good evening to you, Danny. I should start by asking you about that visit by President Biden. He's now left Israel. He was here with a strong message of support. He also said he was committed to delivering aid to civilians in Gaza.
Well, it was an extraordinary visit, an historic one, one of a kind. Never did we have a visit of a president during a war.
And
Just
have plenty of war.
Yes, and of course, showing all this, unequivocal support. I think it's also a message to the region of deterrence and to the world. The United States is back, not only in the Middle East, but it's back in its leadership position, whereby it's leading the camp of the democratic countries of freedom and human rights against the axis of evil, which is run basically by Iran and the Ayatollahs with all the proxies, the global jihadists, and also supported by China and Russia. This is the divide today. The United States have gone a long way today to reassert its leadership, and I believe the world will be much safer after this war with Hamas is over.
Colonel Assad, you're a former security agent. We just had Nasser al-Amari there speaking about the explosion at the hospital last night in Gaza. He said that it would be good, and I've heard this from others across the Arab world as well, it would be good if Israel would get out more information. As a former security agent, will we be able to get that kind of information out? And what would it look like? Is there
I think that the IDF was giving the information, the right information and the right pictures. That will be the information that we need to understand that it's not our missile. Okay, you can see very clear at the place that the rocket hits the parking place, and just a few cars was burning. It's not that complicated to understand that it's not our missile, it's not our bomb. Okay, if it was our bomb targeting this hospital, the hospital was down. So it's just, you have to see the pictures.
So can Israel provide satellite imagery showing that the building?
I think IDF did it already, and you can see it very clear. But as we said, it's not a matter of information of truth. It's a matter of what you want to hear and what you want to say. And if in the world, the Arab that support the Palestinian act of terror wants to use this kind of event for them, for the propaganda against Israel, they will use it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not.
And Danny, this comes at a time, of course, when a lot of people are consuming a lot of news very rapidly via social media. Things are not verified, journalists are not verified. You've also got the more traditional reporter class trying to be first with the story. It was quite shocking, wasn't it, to see several Western news outlets last night, including the New York Times and the BBC, running with the Hamas propaganda and putting that out straight away without verifying anything.
Laura, it is shocking. It is morally reprehensible. It is, I would say, downright anti-Semitic. They were gloating, like they were happy to show the destruction done by Israel, as if we are just like the Hamas. And they, without checking, without verifying, and
Saul, we're going to go ahead and actually move back over to you.
Right. Thanks. Jeff, I'm sorry for the delay, and especially since I know you have more meetings. Would you mind continuing?
Yeah, I'm sorry we lost Danny there, but just like to finish up what I was saying, that in addition to talking, there was one lovely 15-year-old girl who was in her bomb shelter with her safe room with her father, her mother, and the two siblings. She and the two younger siblings were underneath the bed in the safe room while the gunfire was occurring outside, and the Hamas terrorists, and that's what they are, terrorists, were trying to break into the safe room. Her father was holding the safe room door closed for dear life, and her mother was holding the window closed for dear life, because it's been brought to my attention something that I didn't know, that the internal locks on some of these safe rooms are not as strong as they should be, because the thought of these terrorists getting into the moshavs and villages was never as great as what occurred. And the thought is that when help came, if God forbid people had been in the safe room or were injured and couldn't open the door, they should be able to be open to get in to rescue them. In the final analysis, the terrorists did so much damage to this young girl's safe room with her parents that they couldn't get into the safe room to let them out when help came, but they literally had to climb out the window because they were able to get out there. So, I mean, the stories are endless and they're very disturbing, and in some cases very exhilarating how some people reacted. And I was told one story where in a particular religious moshav, where the kibbutz actually, where because it was the high holiday of Simchas Torah and it was Shabbos, and the gates were firmly closed and nobody was permitted to go in and out. So the terrorists were unable to gain access through a passing vehicle getting or something of that nature. But one thing that I will tell you, I've been to Israel many times over these past 20 years, going back to the first Intifada, when, if you remember, there were bombings in restaurants and on buses, and you couldn't go into any kind of food place without there being a guard to check your bag to make sure you weren't bringing a device or something in there, or a gun. I don't see that here now. The inner parts of Tel Aviv are quiet. People are not out socializing. Same in Jerusalem, but they are going about their life, and you don't feel the same personal sense of insecurity that people in the Negev, near the Gaza envelope, are feeling. And it's going to be hard for them to recover psychologically, physically. Children are going to be frightened when they hear loud noises. We were sitting in a room with some officials when something fell, and everybody was visibly shook. And this is a rough way to live. And it's not hard to understand how difficult this is, and has been difficult. In other words, something which we in the States could never have tolerated. If I saw rockets coming in to Manhattan periodically and went into a safe room so it would affect me, to make that the ordinary case of things is really absurd. And that, unfortunately, had become the ordinary case of things. And that's got to change. And I'm hopeful that this response, and it is a response, and every nation, as we all know, has a right to defend and make its people safe. This response is necessary, and I hope will pave the way for people in Israel to live safely and comfortably. I will also tell you, and I'll finish with this, everybody is very appreciative of all of those Americans who are here, all of the JNF people who are here, and I have never, ever seen, if the election were to take place in Israel, President Biden would be 100% electoral count winner, because his speeches, his support, his visit have made an indelible mark on the confidence and the comfort of the people of Israel, and I salute him for that.
So Jeff, first of all, thank you for your physical and emotional commitment of being there. I know you'll be going at least 24 hours without any sleep.
I already have.
Okay, well, you'll surpass that. Hopefully you won't double it. And then I know you need to have another meeting going on in a few minutes. So we're going to move on, but thank you again so much for representing everyone at JNF. Now we're going to move on to Shosh Mitzman, JNF-USA MAKOM Liaison. Shosh.
Thank you, Saul.
Hello, everyone, and it's wonderful to see you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shosh Mitzman, and I'm here in Israel. Although I have an American accent, I was born in the US, but I've spent most of my life in Israel. And I'm excited to share with you about the hope and the work that we're doing to reconstruct and to help people and to try to ease the pain that this whole country and all of you, of course, are going through. We have a short video. We'll just put that on, showing a little bit of what we did just today, and then I'll continue from there. That was 1,400 boxes where we organized today into boxes, 1,400 of non-perishables that are going to people that have not left their homes in 12 days. We're talking about senior citizens, we're talking about Ukrainian immigrants, and of course, underserved populations that have special needs. So, just so we all understand, MAKOM is a proud affiliate of Jewish National Fund USA. MAKOM is all about the people. We are a network of 280 communities across Israel that what we do day in and day out is we care for the people of Israel. What we do, we all have jobs, but we go above and beyond to help the people living around us. So if you think from Kiryat Shmona in the north until Eilat in the south, we have these 280 communities where people are working all day and all night to see what they can do for these people to make their lives better. Now, this isn't a regular situation without the war. We're taking care of educational needs, we're taking care of social services, we're taking care of underserved populations. But I can tell you that within hours of the war that broke out, and I don't need to tell you about the horrible tragedies and the stories that we're all hearing almost every single day, the tragedies that we all experience because we all feel like it's our brothers and sisters. I'm going to take you sort of zoom out a little bit and try to share with you what it looks like on a national perspective, because we have communities across the board. We're talking about families outside of the Gaza envelope that lived their regular life until Saturday morning. And just like that, the world turned around and their husbands were called up. These are families that just like that, The husbands were called up for reserve duty. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of mothers and children that are at home and dealing with this new reality. Whether they have sirens and rockets, that's one thing. Whether they've taken in some family members from other parts of the country, that's another option. Some people have kids at home and say, well, what else can I do? Because my neighbor across the street or a friend or a relative, something happened to them, whether they were abducted and they're held hostage or God forbid, killed. We're dealing with people all around us and it hasn't passed over anyone. We all know someone, somewhere, something. And I decided to share with you the story of what happened in Ofakim and share with you what it means to be part of Makom and how we took it to the next level. Now, I know we're all talking about the Gaza envelope and the people that evacuated, but Ofakim, a small city of 30,000 residents, that was one of the towns that terrorists decided to, that was one of their targets. They skipped over a few smaller towns, and on Saturday last week, they decided that that's where they were going. Now, these 30,000 residents are about 25 kilometers from the border. So other than rockets, occasionally, usually there are no issues. 25 kilometers is about 15.5 miles. So it takes time to get there. Ofakim was caught by surprise. The southern part of the city, which is where the terrorists entered, they just started going house to house and they were massacring people. And it happens to be that in that neighborhood, we have our Makom community. And I was talking to members from our Makom community who were saying that when they started hearing shooting, they all took whatever they could. The people that owned weapons, they took their weapons. People that didn't were taking rocks from their backyards, boulders, if they were able to lift them, doing whatever they can to basically prevent the terrorists from going further into the city. There were 14 terrorists and they killed 50 of the residents. Now, this is a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And this past week, there have been 50 funerals and shivas, which is all across town, whether it was policemen, residents, soldiers, anyone that tried to assist. And what they've been doing in Ofakim this past week has been phenomenal. Not only do they understand that the whole city is traumatized, they brought in social workers and therapists from outside of Ofakim, volunteers from other parts of the country that are going house to house. And I want to tell you something else. The people that experienced in their homes, they were hearing the shootings outside, 12 days, they're still scared to leave their homes. So these are people that have decided, they didn't decide. The reality was they haven't left. Now these people, they need food, they need basic necessities. And our Makom volunteers have been knocking on doors, house to house, checking up on people, making sure in case anyone needs something, whether it's medication, food, clothing, any extra assistance, we'll bring the therapist to their house. We're going around town and we're making sure that everybody is taken care of. Many of the people of Ofakim decided to evacuate, but those that have stayed and haven't left their house, we're taking care of those people too. Now, just to put it on a much larger perspective, I don't have to tell you, because you all know, because you assisted with all this, getting people from the war zone into other places, whether it's the Dead Sea hotels, the Arava, Ayalon. People are currently hosting everywhere across the country. But it's really hard to keep people busy for so many hours a day. And this is where other communities come into. We have communities of educators that they've been going around to the hotels and into the communities that have a large majority of evacuees, and they've been with the children putting on activities for 5-6 hours a day, talking to the adults, helping them work through what they experienced, clothing, shoes, toys, whatever it is. There are the physical needs, and then there's the emotional needs. And because we're all about community, and we understand that being embraced by a community is really what makes a difference and is such a significant part of reconstructing and healing and moving forward, this is what we're doing across Israel. And just to throw out a few examples, we have Druze communities in the north that is that all their tzimmers, their bread and breakfast that they have, they're all filled up with people that evacuated. We have people in different communities all across the country. They're putting on meals, and I've heard about a few weddings this past week, and a brit, and all these different family events. They're being embraced by our communities, and we're trying to give these people as much as a normal life as possible during these excruciatingly painful times. Now, just to kind of sum things up and give you some numbers so you can put it in perspective, at the moment, we're working across 30 cities in Israel. We're impacting the lives of over 20,000 people, whether it's underserved populations, like I said, checking up on senior citizens and delivering food and medicine, or providing educational activities for kids and teens. But it's really differentiating between the needs of those that were evacuated, who lost everything and need to start over again, and those that are still in their homes and somehow need to pick up the pieces of their shattered life and start over again. And I want you to understand that these towns that were so severely affected, these towns are like ghost towns. You go in there, and other than the IDF, there's no one there. And these are places that were once alive and blooming. And our volunteers, like I said, we're going down the streets, and other than soldiers, we don't see anyone. And it's so important to make sure that every single person is being taken care of, because we know that this is what's going to help them in the future. And I want to say that along with all the efforts of all our affiliates, we at MAKOM strongly feel that we're the ones that fill in those gaps, because nobody can do everything. And obviously we're not trying to do everything, but if we each do our small part in what we know how to do together, along with the significant support that we're getting from you through Jewish National Fund USA, this is what's helping us reconstruct Israel and setting the foundation for the future when we are able to start rebuilding and reconstructing these communities. And I'd like to end with something I happened to come across. I'm not a religious person, but I happened to come across in Yeshayahu, Isaiah. It says, "Hitna'ari me'afar kumi," shake yourselves from the ashes, from the dust, and rise up. And I think this is really what we're all trying to do, whether it's you all in the United States or across the globe, our Jewish brothers and sisters, or us here in Israel. We're really trying to shake off this horrible tragedy that we experienced and trying to rise up and see what can we do. And we're each doing our part. And it's such an opportunity for all of us to be working together, united, and making Israel strong and better again. And we each have a part in that. So thank you.
So Shosh, it's good to see you again, but not under these circumstances. And, you know, you and all your MAKOM volunteers, you've always been special to Jewish National Fund USA, but now you're angels to the entire state of Israel. So JNF-USA is proud that you're one of our affiliates. Thank you for what you're doing. And we'll look forward to seeing you in much better times. Thanks, Shosh.
Thank you. Thank you all for your support, and thank you for your part in doing and helping us do what we need to do for this country. Thank you.
Thanks. Just a little explanation of what went on with Ambassador Ayalon. He didn't want to miss our JNF update today. He was called in to do a live broadcast. To me, it looked familiar. I've been in that broadcast studio before. And so what he did is he just turned on his phone so he could be with us while he did the live broadcast. So unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to ask questions. Maybe we'll be able to ask him to join us again on another day. I also want to make sure that I thank Gary Kushner, who represented us in Washington, D.C. yesterday at a very important meeting of Jewish leadership. As you all know, Jewish National Fund USA announced yesterday a $1 million match from an anonymous donor. So we urge you to support this critical relief. The match ends at sundown on Friday. So please try to get your donations in prior to that so we could get the match. JNF.org/support Israel. Every dollar goes directly to those people and areas that are in greatest need. So with that, we'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions today. Thank you for joining us.
Saul, can I add a word from the ground in Israel? I'm sorry, because we have a few more minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Tali Tzur, Chief of Staff, Jewish National Fund in Israel. You hear the details, from every partner and affiliate and speaker. I had the honor of traveling with Jeff Levine today all the way to Ramat HaNegev and to see, the catastrophe with our own eyes. I think there's no school, no session, no manual, no nothing that could have prepared us, the Israelis over here on the ground, to such catastrophe. And, at the beginning, we thought, it's the missiles, it's the houses, it's the rebuilding of the communities. We are not even close to rebuilding the communities, although we have to think about it, because while we're thinking of the destroyed communities, these all people have moved somewhere else, and the needs are beyond what we could have imagined. If the mayor of Sderot is getting on the line with us an hour ago to tell us that he's a mayor of a city of 35,000 people with no people in his city, he's the only person over there with another 6,000 people who cannot move from their homes, and that he needs to support the 28 that have already moved out to Eilat and to the Dead Sea and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, because they don't even have the ability to do the laundry. So they have to give the residents of Sderot vouchers to do the laundry, and only the laundry for 1 week for these people 2 times a week will cost more than 1 million shekels. So only for 1 week, the mayor of Sderot, Alon Davidi, is asking our support, not just for the laundry, for the food, for the medicine, for the education, for the activities for the kids, more than $2 million that we have to explore, evaluate, and see how we can help him. We met with Mayor Eran Doron, who told us that Jeff Levine, our chair, was the first person from anywhere in the world to come to Ramat HaNegev and to see and to meet with the people and to speak with the people and to, show solidarity with the people. And that when someone from the Ministry of Interior in Israel called them yesterday, and Eran Doron told the person, listen, I'm absorbing 2,500 people. I need a budget. Send me the budget. Don't give me phone calls. Send me the budget. They sent Eran Doron back to Eshkol region to get the budget from Eshkol, as if Eshkol has anything except for destroyed communities. And they all tell us, and I sat by Mayor Eran Doron, when he was interviewed to different radio channels today. And he called the government. They said, the only organization that is with us on the ground is Jewish National Fund USA. I was near him hearing it, okay? So, but the requests are enormous. We just gave today more than $100,000 to the Central Arava for medical kits, okay? They need medical kits. We were asked, there's no education for the kids. How do you start building schools and kindergartens? So we gave a budget to Ramat HaNegev to open 9 daycare centers for kids from the Gaza envelope, and this is another hundreds, guys, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for every little thing, because we're talking about tens of thousands of people who were evacuated, and we're not even at the beginning. The IDF is not even in Gaza yet, okay? So I'm sharing it with you because, first of all, you all should feel very proud for being dedicated and committed to these communities yesterday, today, and of course the day after. And thank you for your support. And we all know that Am Israel is a strong people, and we will survive it, and we will see the end, and we will come, even better than what we are. But please, you, your friends, your families, whoever you speak with, we're not criers, but we need to raise money to support these communities, those that were destroyed and those that are welcoming all of the evacuees and absorbing them and hugging them and giving them all the services. So again, JNF.org/support Israel. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we're going to have Olga Washington with us from Faculty Fellowship, who was here also on the ground as the war broke out, and she will share with us some of her experiences. Toda rabba, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Tali, for your meaningful words. In the chat, people have asked me to repeat it again, which you did, but I'll do it one more time, JNF.org/support Israel. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for joining us. Israel Chai.